Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle podcast. Today is the day that God gave you your life. Today is the day that you woke up. You may not have been feeling the best, but you woke up. You may not have been feeling the best, but if you got out of bed and you were able to go get coffee or just to go sit and watch TV, today is a good day. There's someone who didn't wake up. And I tell you every time, and I made this pledge, that I'm going to tell you that you are a billionaire. If you don't believe me, just look at your hand. That hand is yours, and it is covered in these things called cells that make the self. And there are at least 1 billion cells that make up just that hand. So you are a billionaire. You have this. It is not about money. It is about life. Money is a new concept. Bing, done. Got you in the pocket. Moving on. Today, my guest is Bronwen Sciortino. Now, we've all been going through this thing lately, or we've been going through a bit of stress. And you may say, oh yeah, I got to work from home. I've always wanted to work from home, but a new level of stress because now you're actually busier than when you were at your last job, or your kids are running around, and this is happening. But there's always this stress in our life. Ever since we made this industrialized society, she's going to help us to not suffer from having mental issues and suffering from burnout and a complete breakdown that she says she went through and came out on the brighter side of it. What's going on, Sciortino?
Hi, Emmett. How are you? It's so fantastic to be here with you today.
I'm going to say something because I'm on video with her, and she has this classic beauty look about her. So she has this black top on. But here's what the kicker is, the pearls. That is classic fashion.
Yeah, that's very true. But also these pearls are really special to me because my dad gave them to my mum for their wedding.
See? And
so every time I wear them, it's like my dad's with me.
That's awesome. So I asked this question right off the bat when I have any interview because it's so very important. What got you to now?
What got me to where, sorry?
What got you to now?
Oh, to now. Yeah, well, I spent almost 2 decades in the corporate world. And I did everything I was told I needed to do. I ticked all of the boxes. I studied the right courses. I went to the right school. I got the right job. I drove the right car. I lived in the right house. I wore the right clothes. You know, I wore my pearls and my classic housewife gear. I did all of the right things. But while I was doing that, I pushed myself to the absolute limits. I pushed myself so hard and for so long that I broke spectacularly. And I dropped with such a force that I couldn't get back up again. And I went from being an award-winning executive to on the floor, unable to cope in everyday life and unable to stop crying. And that happened in 60 seconds. So my life just shattered into a million pieces around me in less than a minute. And then I spent 3 years piecing myself back together, learning so much about stress and exhaustion and burnout and the things that really drive us in our lives, and also putting together really simple, easy and practical ways that we can churn our lives in a really different way and, you know, really have that billionaire lifestyle without it having to be about what everybody else says that's about.
Yeah, that is true. You know, that is a big thing. And I stepped away from it more than a decade ago, or I began the journey of stepping away from it. But my lifestyle, I call myself a shark, and I don't mean it in the worst way, in the fact that when sharks stop moving, they drown. So, and I find that if I sit too long, you know, if I just binge watch a television show, something doesn't feel right. I'm a hand worker. I'm a mind worker. I have to be busy. But those are two different things probably than what you were experiencing. Am I correct?
I think it is a really personal thing. And I think that that's really what's missing in the way that we are conditioned and the way that we are taught to, live in the world in the current way of living. We're told that we all have to do certain things. If you want to be successful, it looks like this.
Yeah.
If you want to be happy, you have to choose between happiness and success. You have to work hard to get ahead. We are so conditioned in how and what and the way in which we can live. It's amazing that you have really honed in and worked out what it is that works for you. For other people, they really need that time on the couch. That is their time when they can recharge, because they are so busy doing so many things that drain their energy that, they're constantly just pushing hard and struggling and forcing themselves through life.
So you're a simplicity expert. What does that actually mean? Because simplicity is different things to different people, as we were just kind of specifying. So how does that come into your life? What's the textbook definition of it?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I get asked it a lot. Surely as the simplicity expert, doesn't that mean that you have to be a minimalist? And doesn't that mean that you don't get to do much in your life? And doesn't that mean that you have to have, very few things around you? And actually it doesn't mean any of those things. What it means is really getting connected with who you are, understand your values, and then use those to actually direct your life. And it's all about just really stepping outside the noise and complexity of what's going on, because there is so much noise and life is so complex when we make it that way. But when we can actually just ask ourselves simple questions that give us a simple answer, we can find the simplest step forward. So really that's what about being a simplicity expert is all about, is really just helping people to connect with the simplest pathway in their life.
Simplicity, and I've taken it back hard. One of the things with simplicity is I've actually started delving into the taboos that people have told us in our life. You shouldn't do this. And I said, well, I started investigating, saying why. Some of the things I found out have opened up my life in immeasurable ways. And I started thinking about when we were tribes. That was the simplest. We went out and got food. We came back. We shared it. We hung out till we got hungry again.
Yeah.
And you say the simple life gives you the best opportunities, but can a simple life lead to you having everything that you really desire? I'm an American, or I'm in America, and we know we are the most complex, workaholic, have everything, consumerist, capitalist society there is. That is part of the culture. Can someone really step back and have everything that they need with the things that they want?
Yeah, again, great question. It is absolutely possible. But you just have to get really clear about what it is that you really want. Because, you've already said in the very beginning of that sentence, so many people are saying you should do this and you have to have that and you need this. And the more we listen to those things, the more we will find ourselves off track and running down a pathway that's not ours, that doesn't work for us, and that really makes us miserable. I heard a saying the other day that the more you have, the more you will feel you need. Because that materialistic drive, if you think about the billions of marketing messages you are exposed to every day, and every single one of those messages is all about hitting your trigger points, your pain points, the things that, really make you feel like you're not whole. And then it's like they twist the trigger point, and then they manipulate it even further and tell you they have the solution for your needs. And whether that's the new sweater, the brand new pair of shoes, the handbag, the headphones, the car, the house, whatever it is, the course. The health and wellness industry alone now is $7.2 trillion a year. And that is just selling us the solution to our problems, right? And the solution to our problems is not outside us. The solution to our problems is inside us. And, one of the things I discovered in my, having that spectacular breakdown was that there's very little you need in life. I could not cope with anything other than the absolute basics around me. And it was really interesting to see how, you get into this environment where, I was an exec, I was in the C-suite. So you can imagine my lifestyle. And then suddenly I had none of that. I had none of the salary. I had none of those things. And I was more than okay because I actually couldn't cope with any of that. So all of that just creates additional noise and complexity. And it's about working out who you truly are and what you truly need, and then using those things to actually take your steps forwards. Because otherwise we're just randomly with this, this scattergun approach trying to go, well, maybe that will sort me, maybe that will fix me, maybe that will make me happy. And that's why we end up consuming so much and with so much materialism. So yes, you can absolutely have everything that you want with a simple life. You've just got to work out what it is you want.
So I'm wondering about this because sometimes things fill time and sometimes things give status. So when someone gets really simple, like you're at a breaking point, you need it to be simple, but some people are not at that point yet. They don't know that they need to be simple and they have that FOMO, fear of missing out. So what really gets in the way of individuals being able to live a simple life from what you've found out?
Yeah. Well, status is all about what you want other people to think about you. And that fills the gap for you not thinking enough about yourself. So when you actually really reconnect with who you are and truly understand who you are, you don't need to worry about other people filling that gap anymore, because you've filled it for yourself.
Yep.
And also, there's this concept that I work with all the time that's called live and let live. And it's all about understanding your I ams. So who are you and what do you stand behind? What are the characteristics that you align with? What are you prepared to put your hand on your heart and say, I am about? Because the words that follow I am truly make up who you are. And so if you say, I'm loving and I am kind, then that is where you will naturally gravitate towards. We are taught to be judgmental and critical. That's how we are conditioned. We look around us, we see characteristics, we see behavior, we see the things that people are doing, the things that people are wearing, and we make a judgment about that. And we make a judgment about that so that we can determine where we are at in comparison. That's the only reason that we make judgments. And then we justify our judgments, and that's where the criticism comes in. So we either criticize them or we criticize us for not being as good as them. So judgment and criticism are really things that hold you back. And if you can drop the judgment and criticism, it makes it so much easier to quieten things down. And then you can truly start to connect with, who you are and what's important to you. FOMO only comes into existence when you live in fear and panic that you're not good enough, and you are literally running and grasping, trying to find the one thing that will catapult you out of the life that you're currently living. When you know who you are and you know what's important to you, every step you take allows you to reconnect on your pathway, reconnect with who you are, and FOMO doesn't play a role anymore because you're really secure in the knowledge of where you're going and why you're going in that direction.
So with that, I've explained the premise of the podcast, where it's the Billionaire Lifestyle. And I always get, when I'm introducing someone to the concept, what's your podcast? It's the Billionaire Lifestyle. And they say, I'm not a billionaire. I don't have $1 billion. And I look at them absolutely crazy and go through several explanations and they go, oh.
Oh, just the explanation of the cells in your hand was brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's a billionaire. Yeah.
Yes. So in your mind, because it's very much an individual thing, it's just a self-actualization. But what is it to you?
So for me, I have to tell you, I live the coolest life. My life is so much fun. I have opportunities that just rock up and turn up on my doorstep. You know, we were in the US a couple of years ago, and suddenly I've got the opportunity to go and literally sit in an enclosure and play with wolves. You know, such cool, so cool. It's so cool. My life stuff just happens, right? And it happens because I'm so connected with what I'm doing. And for me, the Billionaire Lifestyle is all about joy. It's about connectedness. It's about really looking after yourself. The more I look after myself, the more I give to myself, the more I have to give to the world. And I have a really strong need and desire to really help in the world. I see so many people in pain. I see so many people who are living in misery and they don't need to. And, you know, I have a way that I can help them with that. So I make sure that I'm fully energized, I'm fully fueled, and I'm fully charged so that I can give as much as I can into the world and really help people live in a different way.
So how many books have you written?
I've got 3 that I've written personally. I've got 3 that I've been featured in and 1 more feature to come this year. And my 4th book is underway at the moment.
So what are the 3 in chronological order?
Yeah. So the first one is called Keep It Super Simple. The second one is The Economy of Enough. And the third one is Beyond Aha.
And when is your TED Talk?
Actually, I've not done a TED Talk. I was interested a couple of years ago, but I just spend so much of my time in these sorts of podcast interviews and in keynote speaking and you know, in speaking for corporates that it's just not something that's come up on the radar again. So it's not on the agenda at the moment. So
with COVID, how has that affected your life? Has it not really changed because you've found your actualization in the world, or did it augment?
So my life changed from the point of view that I'm not live on stage at the moment.
Yeah.
Not that that's the main part of my business. Mainly, you know, I would always say that I'm an author first, and the speaking just sort of complements that. Because I live my life based on simplicity, I didn't have significant stress levels or exhaustion levels when COVID hit. So I didn't have to put stress on top of stress, if you like. So I didn't have that massive crash and burn that most people in the world are experiencing because they've had to actually take a massive life trauma and process it at the same time as trying to keep going and move home and deal with family and kids and all of those sorts of things. So my life, you know, the biggest change to my life is I don't go out to my yoga class anymore. I do yoga at my home with the online program. And actually what happened for me is I went into a space of really being able to actually serve and help people. So I created an online program for busy professional women because the stats were showing that burnout was hitting them the most with, you know, going home and working from home. So there's a new online program that's out there. I've done loads and loads and loads more podcast interviews, and also now the online conference stuff is starting to come through as well. So really my life didn't change, but I already worked from home, so that wasn't a big thing anyway for me. Where my life changed was the level of energy I needed to put out into the world to really support people in a more intensive way.
So how do people find you?
Through my website, which is bronwensciortino.com, BronwenSciortino.com, or you can go to Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, and I'm on all those platforms as well.
How did you get your first name? Tell me the story behind that, because that is unique as
first name.
That is unique as Emmett Muckles in total.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Bronwen is actually Welsh, so it comes from Wales.
It sounds like it.
And Bronwen, so it's usually spelled with a YN in Australia anyway. Most females it's a YN.
Yeah.
Mine's an EN. And so as I researched a little bit about that, actually the Welsh spelling Bronwen, so the way that I spell my name, is the female spelling, and the YN is the male spelling.
I thought it would have been opposite.
Yeah, no, it's actually, so Bronwen is the female spelling, and I have lived my life having to spell my name because it's different. I asked my mum once, why did you give me such a name that I've always got to spell and blah, blah, blah. And she said, well, because my name was so boring, I wanted you to have something that was interesting. It's like, well, thanks, Mum. I've had to spell it my entire life.
Awesome. So, I mean, what does it actually really take? And, how do you get in the space? Because I can attest to probably what people are thinking when they hear this. Yeah, but I don't have time to get simple. I mean, that's a true thing. If you're a parent and you're working from home, your kids are not in school, you got to help them with their learning, because I suspect so many more people have a respect for teachers than they used to. I know I do.
Yeah.
So what do we have to do to be prepared for, and what do we have to do to be able to get into our own lifestyle of simplicity and find the billionaire way?
Yeah. I would say the first thing is stop using the distractions, which are all the things that you just listed, as your excuse. Because we're very good, all of us, at finding excuses for why we can't do things. And actually, that's just our fear of change. That's our fear of change that is just putting up a block in front of us and we're saying, too hard, I can't do it. The second thing is to understand that overwhelm will always stop us in our tracks. And all the things that you just listed, you just went straight to overwhelm, because you've just put together a whole heap of things that make it really hard. And you've said, I really want to find out more about this simplicity thing. I really would like to have a simple life, but blah, 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 blah. The whole list of things go together and suddenly you're in overwhelm. It seems like it's just too big and too hard. The third thing is that busyness is, it's like we get up in the morning and we shine our busy badge that we don't even know that we're wearing, and we make it gleam. And we go out into the world, and it's like we puff our chests up and we go, look how busy I am. Can you see how cool my badge is? And then we compete with everyone around us for this amazing busy trophy that we didn't even know existed.
Yep.
But we just add things onto our plate. And, if you think about the three common things that people say when you ask them how they are, it's either I'm so stressed, I'm so busy, or I'm so tired. And the more busy you are, the more stressed you'll be. The more stressed you are, the more tired you'll be. So it makes sense that those three things are the three things that people talk about the most as I am so. But when was the last time you actually had a look at what you are busy doing? And most people just get busier and busier and busier and busier and busier, but they don't actually stop to have a look at what it is that they're doing, and whether or not those things are things that give them energy or take energy away.
Yeah.
And most people, when they stop and have a look, they'll find that their days are stacked with things they don't enjoy, they have no interest in, they would run a mile if they could from, and they're all of them. They're literally draining energy from an already empty energy tank. So I would say, there's a whole chapter on busyness in Keep It Super Simple, for this very reason. It was one of the things that just drove my life and drove me to a breakdown. And so, in all of my books, I create these fabulous little exercises where you can ask yourself questions. And those questions start to open up the information about your life.
Yeah.
Because I think at the moment what we're seeing is this environment where we go and ask everybody else to tell us what our problems are and then what the solution is. All of my work is about you asking yourself the questions about your life and giving yourself your answers. Because until we start to go back inside for our answers and start to understand ourselves, we're going to be stuck living exactly where we are. So start to really use the power of questions to discover what it is about you that is going on and what it is that your next step is. Pare everything back to the next step, just one step. Just find one thing that's stressing you out and create one step that you can take to start reducing that stress. Then, if you think about a compass, if you're walking directly north on the compass and you decide I'm going to walk to 1 degree off north, you'll end up in a significantly different place than you would if you stayed walking north.
Yeah.
All it takes is one step and you can significantly move your life in a different way. You don't have to go from out of control, over the top, everything's overwhelmed, over busy, overstressed, to I'm completely serene, meditating in the mountains like a monk in 5 minutes. You only have to take one step and do one thing a little bit differently and your life opens up in a different way. So simplicity is not about, just being completely zen all the time. There are days when I have crazy days, but they're just not every day, and it's through choice. I choose to put things in my diary in the way that I do. So, you can do it no matter where your life is at. All it takes is one little step, do one thing in a tiny little different way, and your life will move, differently.
Well, awesome. This is the last question I have for you. Who is your peer group? Who are your adjacents? And the reason I thought of this question is because my wife had this book a couple of years ago that I used to have to listen to when she was in the car. They were even talking about like organizing your socks. And I was like, this is a thing about simplicity and about finding your way through the minutiae. So who's in your peer group, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm a really eclectic person. You're laughing at me already, right? I am a really eclectic person. So my peer group is so varied. I need people, who really challenge my mind. I need people who challenge my soul. I need people who challenge my fitness. I need people who challenge, my health and well-being. My peer group is made up of so many different people from so many different walks of life. And that, because that's who I am, that's what makes me whole. I just feed every aspect in different ways. Yeah. And I'm always focusing on a different part of that to grow and develop. And so my peer group tends to be people who they don't tell, they question your mind. Okay.
So I want to thank you so much for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle podcast.
Thanks so much. I've loved our conversation. There's been such an incredible energy around it, and I can't wait for all of your listeners and followers to jump in and connect with this conversation.
Well, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, remember you are a billionaire, and I'm going to go back to your inception, way back. So your mom and dad probably had a couple drinks, and, things got a little frisky, and the next thing you know, the next day they looked at each other and went, ooh. Anyway, so he gave something to her. She took it in and she made something. She made you. 2 became 4, 4 became 8, 8 became 16 until 30 days later, at the 30-day mark, you were a billion cells and you hadn't hit the planet yet. I say this every podcast. 30 days in, you were a billionaire. Let that soak in. So, at the end of about 9 months, you became a human being, a person of color under the sun, because the sun gives us all color. None of us are opaque. It gives us this color, and we are in the image of man. And the problem comes when we get to the being, when we get to the actualization, when we get to the doing, when we get to living. So, here's what I want you to do. I want you to get close to the mirror because I want you to actualize something about yourself. Get close to the mirror and I want you to look directly into the eye of the person that's looking back at you in the mirror, and you will find that the iris is like a nebulae in the sky, just like stars. So when you meet someone who has a nebulae in their eye, like the one in the sky, treat them with love, honor, and respect. Till next time, love you all. Peace.